Hello, and welcome back to my Thursday training through the Launch Squad. I am Katie Collins, and I wanted to talk to you today about feeling a little frustrated, or maybe a lot frustrated, with your perhaps lack of results, even though you feel like you're doing all the things, all the right things. You're doing everything you were told to do, and it's still not working, and you feel like sort of defeated by it. So if that is you, stay tuned. So I learned this model around just the concept of being versus doing, and really the importance of both. I learned this model from Jim Fortin. He's got a podcast, very cool guy to follow online, so check him out. He can probably do, obviously not probably, do a much more in-depth explanation of this concept. But I wanted to share it with you today so that if you haven't given this some thought, or maybe you have, but you've kind of forgotten, or I know it, but, right? And then it's like, well, you know it, but you're not doing it. Then I want this to inspire you to keep going and to understand that 50% of your success is based on what you do, and 50% is based on your mindset. And some people may not even agree with the 50-50. Some people say it's 90% mindset, 10% action. So for the ease of this, I'm just going to say you need both. So what do I mean by this model that Jim taught me? So Jim refers to, he calls it the be, do, have model. And that is in relation to the model that most people go by, which is the have, do, be. So let me give you some examples so that you can see what I mean by this. So when I have more time, then I can do more things, and then I'll be successful and therefore happy. Most people operate from that concept. Would you agree? So what Jim says is you've got it backwards. You've got to start with the way of being first. Most of us wait to be a certain thing once we get a result. What he's saying is for it to really work, you have to be the person. Now, if you follow any sort of law of attraction or any sort of success thinking principles, it always starts in the mind first, right? You have to believe it before you can see it. Right? You have to, fake it before you make it type of thing. All of those things are saying the same thing. It's the act as if you have it, and then it will appear. And I know that can be so tricky when you feel like you're doing all the right things, and you think you're acting like you have it, and it's just not working, and it can feel defeating. That's really the word. It's like, yes, it can feel frustrating or overwhelming. But in essence, when you feel defeated, it's hard to keep going. So let's talk about a little bit of like, all right, if you go by Jim's model, you be the person who's successful in your vision. And by being that, you then can do or choose to do. Instead of procrastinating or making up excuses or finding reasons why you can't do it, you do it. So you be the person who's successful. You do the things that will create that success that you desire. And then you have the success and the things that you want. So what are some ways of being that you can really take on that allow you this essence of true success, right? So I've got a list here, and I've been looking through this and learning about it a lot. So I've kind of got this list of words either from myself or from hearing it from other people. But one of the biggest things that I learned early on was that I needed to be coachable. The minute you find yourself saying, yeah, I know that, you are not coachable. Take off your know-it-all hat. I'm an expert. You're an expert. We're all experts at our thing. But the minute you think you're an expert at something that you're actually not even producing great results at, right? That is like the number one thing that's in your way right now. So being coachable, listening to what other people are saying to you, because there may be this major blind spot that everyone else around you can see that you don't see. I had this like several years ago. I come from the East Coast, and everybody knows the East Coast has their sort of edge. People from the East Coast have a little bit of an edge to them, right? And then I was over on the West Coast in California, and people would say to me, and even in Colorado, I would hear, you're a little rough around the edges. And I didn't understand what that meant because I came from the East. And it was like a very recent, I moved to Colorado like 21, 22 years old. And I was hearing this at maybe like 25, 26. So I was still very much an East Coaster. I didn't understand. It was a blind spot. It's not that like being from the East Coast or having an edge is bad. It's that I didn't understand that not everyone acted that way. Right? There was a blind spot in me that there were ways of being that were not the way I was raised or the way I had been acting, and that I might get bigger bang for my buck, if you will, if I shifted a little bit in that and softened myself a little bit. And I really needed to be coachable to hear that, right? And was it a little offensive? Maybe, right? Did I get defensive? Maybe. But at the end of the day, it was exactly what I needed to hear to be more successful in my relationships and ultimately in my business. So you've got these blind spots, and if you're not coachable, you are missing out on the opportunity to be shown something that you just simply can't see for yourself. So that's a way of being that you need to be showing up with. Every day, be coachable. Another way to say it was be willing to be the dumbest person in the room. And I loved this one. This one was so good for me because I am a recovering perfectionist. I like to be perfect. And I really learned early on that to be the dumbest person in the room, the newbie, was actually a blessing because I got to learn from other people's mistakes and other people's kind of lessons of what they learned in their business. I got to learn through them. I didn't have to fail the way they did. So being willing to, raise your hand, ask questions, not know it all is the best person that you can be so that you can learn as much as possible instead of learning by doing all the time. It's like learning by listening. Another way of being, always being in action. So it sounds like a doing, right? But it's the agreement with yourself that you're willing to be in action all the time. Now, I don't mean don't take a break. But I do mean if you can feel, I'm stuck, I'm stagnant, then it's time to take some action. That's the being that needs to happen. And so it's this understanding of why am I stuck, or where do I need help, or who can I turn to for support, or is my body telling me I need a rest and I'm going to rest so that I can go back and take action. But who are you being in that moment? Are you being someone who is willing to be always taking action? Okay. Be a great question asker. Don't necessarily ask why. Instead, ask, how can I get there? Like, how can I get the outcome I desire? Right? Now, sometimes it's like, I want to know the why. I want to understand every little step, or I want to understand the 5 steps ahead, right? But really, it's the question. Being a good question asker is like, what's the right step right now? What's the thing in my way? How do I do something? Who can I hire for that? But it's showing that you're constantly taking in information, processing it, and then being able to raise your hand and say, here's something I don't understand, or here's something I'm up against, or here's something that I am resisting big time. But being a good question asker. Okay. Being abundant. All right. So this one is huge. And I love talking about this because I do not come from money. Nobody, gave me a bunch of money. I'm not married to money. Like, everything that I've created and all of my abundance mindset has been based on my own life experience and where I needed to continue to up-level my abundance mindset. So I shared the story before. Back when I was a teacher, I was, bringing in a certain amount of money per month, and I was used to it, even though it wasn't even that much money. And when I was asked about my next business goal, as I was building my business while still teaching, my business goal was to make an additional $1,000 a month, $1,000 a month, because that would just blow my mind with like not running out of money every month. Like I literally paid my bills like every 2 weeks because I got paid every 2 weeks, right? So I was just always running out of money and trying to balance. Ooh, I don't know if I can go grocery shopping today. I get paid in 2 days, so I'm going to like figure food out till then. So that was my lifestyle. That was my abundance mindset at that time. And I started hearing other people share their goals, where mine was $1,000 a month. Someone else's was $4,000 a month. Someone else's was $40,000 a month. And I remember when we had to say our dollar amount all at the same time so that you couldn't shift like your idea in your mind based on what everyone else said. So we were in a group of 4 and everybody shouted their dollar amount at the same time. And right when I said 1,000 and this guy said 40,000, we caught eyes, and he was utterly shocked that mine was so low, and I was utterly shocked at his being so high. But here's the thing. When you lack an abundance mindset, which I was doing at the time, you block things from coming your way because it's like this belief that you don't feel worthy of so much more to come your way. And we're not just talking dollars, right? Abundance, it's like, I want an abundance of energy. I want an abundance of time. I want an abundance of money. I want an abundance of clients. I want an abundance of love. I want an abundance of relationships that feed my soul. Right? There's tons of abundant opportunities for us. If you're not being abundant as you build your business, you are blocking an energetic flow. And again, it's not always about money, right? But it's like, oh, I've got plenty of time to help someone else out. If they're looking for market research, I've got plenty of time. Let me do that for you, right? Or I've got plenty of business contacts. Who are you looking for? Who can I connect you to? So keep asking yourself, what do you have plenty of? And claim it. Be a person that has plenty of things and be very generous with that. And this is also about money. And sometimes I did not have plenty of money, but I had plenty of credit, and I used it. And I used it wisely, and I used it respectfully, and I paid it down, and it got me to where I am today, operating from this plenty of credit, right? And now there were times when I could say I had plenty of debt, but I just continued to pay it off because I had plenty of money coming in, and I had that abundance mindset. One way to see if you're being abundant is when you do get money in, what do you do with it? Do you tithe it? Do you donate in some way? Do you put some away for a rainy day? Do you pay off debt? Do you do all of the above? Do you do none of the above? It gives you an indicator of where you are with the abundance mindset. So a lot of people will, say, yes, I made $5,000. I'm going to put that in my savings account. And what happens when we do that is we are expecting a rainy day. Other people are like, I'm going to throw all that in Bitcoin, and they're expecting a gold rush, right? Other people are like, I'm going to pay off my debt right now because they're expecting maybe to want to have that credit available later, or maybe they're trying to pay down their debt. So different reasons for different actions, but just ask yourself, is your way of being with money abundant? Is your way of being with time abundant? Is your way of being with others abundant? So another example is, I see a lot of people networking inside Facebook groups, and I see a very imbalanced approach that they take. They go to Facebook groups with this concept of, where can I get clients? And they're promo. Here's my free thing. Here's my complimentary thing. Every single week, they're posting the exact same thing. Same exact wording. It's just cut and paste. Oh, let me put this all over. I've done that. I'm just saying that was not operating from an abundance mindset, because I was not balanced in my approach to also supporting people in that group if they asked questions. I didn't have time for that. I didn't want to answer questions from free seekers. I wanted to answer questions from my clients, right? So I had this very imbalanced approach. And when I stopped doing it, I could spot it in others like no tomorrow. It was unreal. And it's a turnoff. It's an energetic turnoff, and people don't understand that. And so you have to operate from that abundance mindset of, I've got time to support people. I've got time to, to show up for others instead of I only have time to promote. I only have time to work with people that pay me, right? So that being abundant, huge one. Okay, this one was so good for me too. Being radically responsible for your results. So it's like if you're somebody that feels like you don't have time, you're working and working and working and working, and then you're late on delivering your client deliverables. Say that you're doing graphics, or you're doing a website, or you're writing copy, right? Things that clients paid for upfront, at least half, for you to deliver the thing, right? And then you get paid the second half. And if you're somebody that is not delivering what you promised on time consistently, right, then you're missing out on that radical responsibility of how you're showing up in the choices that you're making that are making you late. So you're either over-promising and under-delivering. You're maybe promising things that you cannot accomplish, or you're wasting a bunch of time. And if you kind of reined in how you use your time or different things that would save you time, you would be able to deliver those things on time. But any of those configurations lies with you. So if you're ending up being angry at the client that's going, ring, 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 where's my stuff? Where's my stuff? Where's my stuff? You're missing out on taking radical responsibility for how you're showing up as a business owner. And when that happens, the people that hired you are unimpressed. You have overpromised, underdelivered, and you're going to lose referrals and lose respect, frankly. Right? So that's one example. Another example of the radical responsibility is understanding, like, we all have our kind of BS, whether I mean bullshit or blind spots, that we need to work through. And if you kind of show up in this very defensive way, whether you're on a team or with your clients, then you're not taking that radical responsibility for the way you're being. Right? If you keep saying you don't know how to use a certain tech, or you're kind of unwilling to shift to, say, an online scheduler, and you expect people to email you back and forth, can you do this date? No. Can you do that date? No. Can you do this date? No. Can you do that? Like, that's a very frustrating experience for people. And you're just like, nope, I'm not doing an online calendar, but I'm going to build an online business. Then you're not taking radical responsibility for a way that would make this easier for everyone. It's not about you. You can't live in your universe and expect everyone else to kind of function around your universe. You have to understand, oh, here's an area of growth for me. What's my resistance around learning this thing? How can I overcome that so that I'm not impacting the lives of the 5 people closest to me because I refuse to learn something or do something that I'm simply resisting. So there's all these different ways of, accepting that radical responsibility of how you're showing up, how that impacts other people, and the choices that you make on a second by second basis that get you the results you are getting. And then you kind of forget to be responsible for that. And you start blaming other people for what is showing up for you. Oh, I signed up for this coaching program and none of it worked. Every time I see people say that, like in a Facebook group, I just cringe. I'm like, where is your personal responsibility there? I'm not seeing any of it, right? It's the people that say, oh, I signed up for this coaching program. I didn't actually get in there and do the work. I resisted it every step of the way, and so I didn't get results. That's so different than that coach didn't do her job. Nothing good happened. Where's the radical responsibility there? So yes, there are some coaches that didn't do their job, of course, right? And that's, yes and yes, right? But there's always a part of us that didn't do a thing or several things that created those results together. And when you're blaming other people instead of taking that personal responsibility for yourself, you're not being that successful person in your vision. All right, let me go over one more. Okay, integrity. Being impeccable with your word, right? This came up in the 4 agreements. This really, it's fascinating to me how easy we let ourselves off the hook. Oh, I've got to write, I just had a couple of clients on a call together the other day, and they're both like, I'm dreading or resisting writing my email sequence. And, it's 7 emails. And I remember I was the exact same way. It took me probably 30 days to get these 7 emails written. And I just came up with every excuse under the sun. And my client was saying the same thing. She's like, oh yeah, somebody needs to update their billing. I can take care of that in 15 minutes. But do I ever sit down in these 15 minutes and write 1 email out of the 7? No. And I was saying, often you can write an email in 15 to 20 minutes. They don't take that long, but sometimes we make something such a big deal that we don't do it. And we joke about that at the launch squad. Sometimes, it's blow that off, and our project manager will say, oh, did you get that done? I'm like, no, not yet. And then it's like, meanwhile, it took me like 20 minutes once I finally did it. So the be impeccable with your word is really honoring you. When you say you're going to get something done by a certain time, you need to honor you and be the person who's impeccable with her word and get it done by that time, right? And if you don't, then you need to make a new agreement with yourself. And that new agreement and that new date, you've got to stick with it. And, we've talked about this in the launch squad. All of us get projects done faster because we've got 4 to 6 people that are waiting on us to have that done. So there's more accountability than if we were in a solo-owned business. And our clients say the same thing, because we need people to stay on time so that we can get that launch schedule done. We launch you 3 times in 9 months. So if you take 30 days to write your email sequence, but you told us you were going to take 7 days, it delays everyone on the squad. Right? So that integrity of doing what you say when you say you're going to do it. I used to work for a team, in another coaching company, and sometimes I didn't get my tasks done for whatever reason. And so we just had to report done or not done. And we were just marking on a spreadsheet, D for done and D for not done. And there was no story. It was just, Katie, this was your thing, done or not done? And I'd say not done. Okay, Crystal, this was your thing, done or not done? So no story there. But then they would say, would you like to choose a new date for that? So it's just that practice of, we don't need to beat ourselves up, but at the same time, you got to call yourself out on your BS and say, okay, I've got to get this done by next week. It didn't get done this week because XYZ. It doesn't matter, but just choose a new date and get it done. If you say, I'm going to have 35 conversations this month, that would lead to 10 booked calls, that will lead to 3 sales. If that's your plan, then you have to have 35 conversations that month. And when you track them, and I've got a tracking sheet, if you would like it, just let me know. I did this. I remember when I hired my coach, I did this. I tracked every single conversation that I was having to see if I was getting to that. I think I'd set the goal for 25. And to see if I was getting to that 25, and I wasn't. I was getting 12, and 12 felt like a lot to me. I was like, yeah, I'm doing great. But when I actually wrote it down and tracked it, and this is true for following your food intake, your alcohol intake, your exercise days, when you track stuff, you get to see, are you actually fulfilling what you desired? Am I having 25 conversations? Because at the end of the month, if I don't get the 3 sales that I wanted, and I'm like, oh, that didn't work, in my lack of radical responsibility, I could go back to the tracking sheet and go, oh, well, I only had 12 connections. And those 12 connections booked 3 calls. One of them was a no-show, one was a no, and one was a yes. So in all like the grand scheme of things, I did all right. I got 1 new client, but I wanted 3, right? And so just setting these goals and having the self-integrity is the way of being that's gonna get you the success that you desire. Setting dates. Okay, I'm gonna launch on this date, and you set it like it. I had a mentor that said the only way things happen is when you set a date. And so, look at your calendar right now and say, can I launch in 4 weeks? Can I launch in 6 weeks? Look at the calendar, as long as there's not a holiday there, like you don't want to launch around Labor Day, set write it in pen on your calendar, or better yet, in your digital calendar. But set the date and be impeccable with your word and follow through with that date. Don't keep changing the date, right? We can't keep moving the end line. Keep the end line and find your way there, right? So all in all, that was like our conclusion sentence we used to teach our second graders. All in all, I love dogs. So all in all, Jim Fortin is the one who taught me. I think he's the one who designed this, but I'm honestly not sure. This be, do, have model. Jim Fortin taught me so much about my way of being that allowed me to show up and do the things that I had to do, that allowed me to have the things I want to have. I just shared with a friend the other day, I feel so grateful and blessed right now in my life. Everything is going great. Like, I am significantly happy. I'm grateful for my home. I'm grateful for the launch squad. I love our clients. I love all that we're doing. I just feel so dialed in. And I know it was because of this work I did around my own way of being. And if I was resistant or kept saying I didn't have time, I may not have connected with Jeffrey when we connected a couple of years ago, that led us down this pathway to create the launch squad with our crew, right? So you have to understand kind of the rackets that are showing up, the excuses, your ways of being, your words, your lack of abundance in areas, the way you might be like protecting your energy, but almost too much, right? It's just inviting a balance and inviting a different way of being so that you can get the different results that you want. So again, it's not about not taking action. It's just about being the person who does better with every action she takes. So that's it for today. I hope you have a wonderful day. Let me know if you want that client tracking sheet. It is a really interesting thing to see have your own accountability if you are on that path of wanting to book a bunch of calls. And I just really invite you to take what you learned today, and just, even if you just picked up one kind of way of being that I talked about, we talked about being coachable, having integrity, radical responsibility, being a great question asker, being the dumbest person in the room, being in action, being abundant, right? Like, what is one of those things that stuck out the most to you? And how does that look for you to be that person 100% of the time? And really, I encourage you to take that on this week, this month. We're at a brand new month, second half of the year, which I can't believe. But that's what these lives are for. It's for you to like pick at least one thing up and take it with you. All right. So let me know in the comments what you got from this, and I'll see you next Thursday. All right. Have a good day.